Live.
This is Defiance Daily Dispatches for the Defiant. I'm wearing shades because I just rolled straight in from the car for this episode. I was so excited about this episode. I just told my co-founder, Xander Schultz. Where is he? Xander, get in here. Get in here. Get onto this screen. Where are you? There he is. So
hello, friends.
I just rolled in, and I'm going to find my glasses here somewhere, but it's Wednesday, so maybe we keep the shades on just for a minute, because this is cool guy and gal day here at Defiance Daily. This is the day of the week that we announce real actions that we are taking to fight back against corruption. That's what happens on Wednesdays at Defiance Daily, the weekly mission brief. And Xander, we have a very special weekly mission brief teed up today, where we're going to be talking about actually growing the defiance in the United States of America. And we have a couple of great special guests with us today, who I will tease in a moment. But maybe first a word or two from you about this meta mission this week.
Yeah, emphasis on the word we when we talk about growing the defiance this week. This week is all about you guys. We have been doing a pretty good job. If I'm giving myself a report card, Miles, give us an A- on providing information, providing actions. But look, if you are watching this show, you are in the upper 1% of civically engaged individuals. You're watching an hour-long live stream every day about what you can do to fight back against authoritarianism. And so that's good. That's good. We're proud of you. I'm proud of you. Miles is proud of you. We're proud of each other. But also it comes with responsibility, because if you're looking around for someone else to organize your friends, family, and coworkers that's more engaged, they're probably not coming. You are the proverbial hero you hope for. Is that how the saying goes? You're the hero you hope for.
Let's stick Something with Spider-Man. With the great power comes great responsibility.
There you go.
That quote was from Spider-Man, and not anyone more famous than Spider-Man. But that is going to be the focus today, Xander, because it's how we will, and by we, I mean the pro-democracy side. It is how we will win the midterms. It is how we will restore the rule of law in this country, is realizing we are the nodes to grow this thing. And if you had any doubt, well, just look at what's happened in the past year. Folks have risen to the challenge from the cowering position. A lot of people were in the cowering position last year. That has changed. With us today, Xander, to talk about the state of defiance in the United States of America, we will have the incredible Andrew Weissmann, New York Times bestselling author, legal superstar, and former federal prosecutor. He will be joining us. We will also have with us later in the program former ABC journalist, award-winning independent media superstar, Terry Moran.
Dang.
Two superstars on today's program. And there's a chance our friend, also New York Times bestselling author, Ami Fields-Meyer, recently minted at the top of the New York Times bestseller list.
Class of 2026.
That's right. He may slide into the conversation. He has a flight delay, so we'll see if we get him jumping in. So some great folks with us today to talk about the state of defiance in America. But we're going to start, Xander, as we do on Wednesdays, with the defiance win of the week. And this week's win comes from Minnesota, where the Trump administration just suffered another courtroom defeat, my friends. Earlier this year, you saw that the administration sued Minnesota, arguing the state's so-called sanctuary city policies interfered with federal immigration enforcement. They wanted a federal judge to declare that those laws were unconstitutional and stop them from taking effect. But another judge said nope. And here's the best part.
That's the quote.
No, yes, nope.
Nope.
That would be the ultimate judicial mic drop, is a decision that just says nope. We'll ask Andrew Weissmann in a moment if he's ever seen anything like that, maybe something close to that, but perhaps it's this. And the best part is that this was not some liberal crazed judge that Donald Trump could say is off the reservation, appointed by Joe Biden. He was appointed by Donald Trump. Judge Eric Tostrad ruled the administration simply had not shown that Minnesota's laws violated the Constitution. Now, if that judge's name sounds familiar, Tostrad, it's because this is not the first time that he has pulled back on this administration. Earlier this year, he held that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security was in civil contempt after federal officials violated one of his court orders by transferring a detainee from Minnesota to Texas by taking that person out of his jurisdiction, out of state. In fact, he even ordered the government to pay for the man's flight back to Minnesota after finding DHS never adequately explained what had happened. And this is where the defiance comes in. Where this ruling took place is where Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty and Attorney General Keith Ellison have fought to hold federal officers accountable. It's also where Defiance.org helped launch the Fight Against Federal Overreach Coalition, FAFO. And now it is where the administration has suffered another legal defeat. Xander, we are often told that these fights are hopeless, that the courts will not act, that they will not save us, that the institution is too far gone. But this week, one of Donald Trump's own judicial appointees reminded everyone that judges do not work for presidents. They work under the guides of the U.S. Constitution. And that is our Defiance win of the week. I think it's a good one. A lot of things are happening in Minnesota. A lot of bad things happened in Minnesota, but that has resulted in it being the epicenter of pushback. I was very heartened by that, Xander.
Minneapolis quickly, and Minnesota quickly becoming home to the Defiant Stars. We've got Mayor Jacob Frey, we've got DA Mary Moriarty, we've got AG Keith Ellison, we've got Judge Tostrud. I think I'm saying that right. A lot of people showing up, not to mention like the 100,000 people that were in the streets recording ICE agents and kicking ass over there. They are a model for us all over in that neck of the woods.
Well, and I'm glad you say that, because it's not just the courts. I mean, that's why Minnesota has, in some ways, I think people will look back at the second Trump administration and see Minnesota partly as a hinge. And they'll see a hinge moment there where it went from institutions starting to push back and no King's protests to people really viscerally getting in the game, as you know, taking these things and documenting what they are seeing, being unafraid of federal officers taunting them and sort of openly trying to flaunt the absolute immunity that the Trump administration said they had. And the people of Minnesota resisted that, and they did so peacefully. And that's why, again, I feel like it was a hinge moment.
Yeah. And these things work hand in hand, right? Like these folks, Jacob Frey, Mary Moriarty, Keith Ellison, they're elected. These are elected individuals who feel emboldened and empowered by their voters. Their voters are saying, we want you to fight back. And so like, even when you see the institutions fighting back, it is often because they know the public supports them fighting back, that it is a popular move and representative of the people that they're supposed to be representing. And so, yeah, power to the people, man. It's been a good catchphrase for some time.
That's right. Yes, indeed. Well, in that vein, we've got a guest that's going to be joining us here. You know him. You probably love him. You may even have on your desk or bookshelf his most recent New York Times best-selling book, Liar's Kingdom: How to Stop Trump's Deceit and Save America. Maybe it's sitting on top of his other New York Times bestsellers, The Trump Indictments and Where the Law Ends. Andrew Weissmann is stacking them deep with bestsellers, and he joins us today on Defiance Daily. It's great to have you with us, my friend. Andrew, of course, I left out all the other accolades. You're the former general counsel at the FBI and a former prosecutor and assistant attorney general, but you've done a lot of stuff with the law, my friend. And
I'm old. That's all that means.
Andrew, can I make a Trump-style request to have one of your best-selling awards? Because I'm surrounded by New York Times bestsellers constantly. I've got none over here.
We try to make Xander feel very self-conscious about that.
I actually say that. I have said that to Carol Leonnig. I'm like, Carol, you need to share. You can't take all of the Pulitzer Prizes. So I'll give you a line that Sarah Longwell, when she was talking to me about my book, she goes, Liar's Kingdom. What's that about? I can't really figure that out. Who are you referring to?
Yeah. Who is the subject of this book? I want to ask you, my friend, at the outset, we were just talking about this win in Minnesota, the Trump appointed judge pushing back on the sanctuary cities policies. I'm curious to zoom out and get your sense before we go into Andrew Weissmann's overall scorecard.
Yeah.
What the Defiance doing in America. how is the justice system holding up? How are the lower courts doing? They got a glowing review from a lot of folks, you know, at the top of the year. Hey, the lower courts are fighting back. We had a Supreme Court term end, some decisions that didn't go the way the pro-democracy side wanted, some others that did. What's your assessment in light of all of that? How's the judiciary in fighting back?
Yeah, so the judiciary is sort of one question. How's the justice system doing is another. But if you're just looking at the lower courts, everything but the Supreme Court, it actually is working as planned, which is that they are independent, that they are doing their job, that they take their oath of office seriously. As you mentioned, and people I think know this, but just to foot stomp on it, this includes judges appointed not just by any Republican president, but judges appointed by Donald Trump in his first term. In the Abrego Garcia case, like think way back, this is just an outrageous case, but a leading conservative judge on the Fourth Circuit, it's sort of to give people a sense of who he is. He's the way we thought of Ruth Bader Ginsburg when she was, a litigator, somebody who people really looked up to, was scathing about what the administration was doing, saying, you made a mistake and now you're washing your hands of it. You will not even bring him back. You say he's a terrorist, and he's like, well, maybe he is and maybe he isn't, but it's your job to prove it. And it doesn't mean you are allowed to deprive him of due process. And we have seen that kind of activity over and over again. And it's really worth calling out that this is something that conservative jurists are doing. We saw the 11th Circuit, one of the most conservative appellate courts in the country, reverse Judge Cannon not once but twice in what people call a bench slap. And in ways that a friend of mine said, like they would have curled up and not gone to work that day. It was so embarrassing. So that's a long way of saying that the courts have at below the Supreme Court level have done exactly what the framers of the Constitution intended them to do. The one way I would criticize them is that I think that they, in the light of the repeated findings of contempt by this Justice Department and by other people in the Trump administration, at some point it's like you have to pull the trigger and hold them in contempt. And there's in other words, there's more you can do. We saw that just recently, the federal judge referring Todd Blanche to what happened in that case. This is the IRS slush fund case. We're finding that this was taken in bad faith and referring it to the Bar Association in New York. But it's like more of that has to happen. There has to be a deterrent effect.
Can I add just a quick follow-up there before I get into my broader question? How do we catalyze more of that? Like, I think sometimes we say like we need to see more of that. Is there a way everyday people like us should be pushing to so we see more of that?
Well, for the litigants, I think that it's really important I understand at the outset, like judges are sort of conservative in nature. I don't mean politically. I mean, they try things short of that because in the past, just especially if you represent the government, it's enough that a judge said do it. I mean, it's unthinkable that you would ever be in this situation. So I think they have to be somewhat stunned, and they're thinking, okay, if I order it, if I say this, if I call them out, you are seeing organizations like Just Security, which is this legal forum that full disclosure, I'm on the advisory board. It's connected to NYU. Do a lot of compendiums and giving judges a sense of how rampant it is, so that an individual judge doesn't think, oh, is it just me and this is isolated, that they can see the big picture. I do think, obviously, you were just talking about Minnesota, and I do think just public awareness and then public talking about it and public pressure is useful because there's so few checks and balances left, and this is one of the few. I was praising how this is a branch of government that is working at the lower court levels. We know Congress is not, and so
No, they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought they were doing a bang up job.
Spoiler alert. So this is one. There's a reason that Todd Blanche has filed a brief saying that he doesn't think bar associations should have any oversight over people at the Justice Department. I mean, that is. I could go on and on. It's very, very triggering for somebody who is in the Justice Department to even read that. So there's a reason for that, and so that it is a tool that ultimately has to be used. And I think judges are just concerned about, what if, is this the last thing, and sort of having a constitutional crisis? But we're in that constitutional crisis. Like we are at that moment. And so, it's as a judge said to me years and years ago, at some point, it's the tactics of Grant and not McClellan that's needed. There's by the way, last time I said this, again, it was with the Bulwark, and Sarah Longwell said, yeah, I think a lot of people are going to really understand your Civil War.
I tell Miles that every morning. I was like, you got to be more Grant, less McClellan. But he won't listen.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
To that end, Andrew, you mentioned Just Security and remarkable outfit that you're associated with. The team over there has done a very good job of, I would say, cataloging and characterizing and enumerating the corruption of this administration. I've got one quibble, though, because the one thing I was hoping Just Security would do, or someone would do, is try to give us a single data point to show what heuristically a lot of us believe of this administration, that it is in magnitude the most lawless administration in modern history, if not the entirety of history. And one way you might be able to sum that up is adverse decisions in the lower courts. Now, that's a very hard undertaking because I don't think anyone's ever assessed every single presidency and how many adverse decisions there were in the lower courts. Big undertaking. But if you just look, I was talking to Kyle Cheney the other day from Politico. If you just look at the database Kyle keeps, right, of the lower courts ruling against the administration on the unconstitutional detention of detainees, that number is now north of 15,000. Just those cases alone probably are sufficient to say this administration in under 2 years has been found to have violated the Constitution in more specific instances than any other presidency, probably in 2 terms. I say that because I'm pretty confident in it, but man, would I love for someone to give me that data point researched to death.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will point out is the New York Times has taken because there's so much to do. New York Times did a wonderful job this past week. And that, by the way, for me is kind of high praise because I have lots and lots of issues with the Times. But they did a really good study of what has happened to the immigration cases. And on the podcast I do, Main Justice with Mary McCord, we sort of singled out sort of how we think about that. And we compared the normal rate of success of the Department of Justice in immigration cases with the findings of losing well over 50% of these cases either in court or not even before they sort of get to court. And it's just sort of astounding what's going on, but it's also completely predictable. Just to be clear, like, this is, to me, what do you think happens if you give billions and billions of dollars to an agency where there's minimal training, and we see that they're neither not getting or using body cams, and it's basically and there will be no repercussions because it's been clear from the White House that it's like, do not worry about DOJ investigating or prosecuting you. There's a new report that DOJ is not going to actually even look at these cases. So you're absolutely right to focus on it, but I would say it's one of the things that this administration, the one advantage it has is because it is doing this flood the zone in outrages. There is, how did Alicia Menendez put it today, a cornucopia of choices of things to talk about that are outrageous.
Andrew, something on my mind often these days is the attempt to classify the left as terrorists. We see it over and over again. I think they know the antidote to authoritarianism is collective action. And so if you can criminalize the collective piece of it, getting into groups that oppose this administration, their fascist attempts to take over our government, they can maybe cut it off at the knees. What is the state of play over there in the attempt to classify the left as domestic terrorists?
Boy, there's a lot to unpack there, but just to be clear, Senator Rubio, Secretary of State Rubio, has recently given a speech doing just that. Obviously, we have Stephen Miller talking overtly about it. It is a complete violation of the First Amendment to be singling out protected speech in that way. I think the best sort of to give somebody just an isolated example of like how wrong it is can we just focus on Alex Preddy and the response of this administration to that? We could go to other examples. It was the same thing was said about Mr. Abrego Garcia, but with Alex Preddy, the first example was he's a terrorist. This is a nurse. This was a nurse whose last action when he was alive was helping somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I think that broke through was that people could see it themselves. They could go to the video. But that is, I think that we are going to see more vilification. We may see more lawsuits with an effort to chill in the same way that we've seen the lawsuit against the Southern Poverty Law Center, which I think is a fiasco in terms of the entire theory of that case. And I think it's also a way of trying to motivate the base in advance of the midterms and to say these are terrorists. Now we're hearing that these are communists. I always thought that the president being nice to Mandami was I had a very cynical take on this, which was that he was going to be used as a pincushion to sort of foment that way of thinking about your opponents. And what's so crazy here is that, if you want to talk about policies, that's fine. If you want to talk about immigration and why you think your view is fine. But this is, we've always had demagogues, but this is really the stuff that you see in Russia and in Hungary. And fortunately, I would say what you used to see in Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Andrew, I'm glad that you point to those examples because like Hungary, like Russia, the process is meant to be the punishment. And that's in part because you have autocrats that don't actually believe in the legitimacy of the judicial system because to them, it's window dressing for revenge and punishment. And so a legitimate prosecution isn't really something that they're processing. And no one has to take my words for it. One of the anecdotes I was most interested in from Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan's book is this almost a throwaway line about the Letitia James case, the New York Attorney General who Donald Trump has engaged in retribution against. And they quote Trump in the book basically as saying he wants Todd Blanche to go after her. He doesn't care if there's a legitimate case there. Blanche just needs to make her life as difficult as hell, I think he says. And it doesn't matter what happens after that. He wants to put her through hell. And they then asked Trump, he was quoted as saying this by another aide. They asked him and he says, well, I don't think I said that, but I would say something like that. Right? He basically admits to it in Trumpian speak and admits that the process is the punishment. You and I are both in that club. He stripped your security clearance. He stripped my clearance. He went after a major law firm that you used to work at, went after me personally and put me under investigation. In a separate time, we might joke that we deserve jackets or at least some kind of special ring we all get to wear. But these are examples that he has tried to make of individual people to create deterrence. And my question is about Trump's attempts to elevate the court of public opinion above the court of law. He doesn't care very much about the latter. He cares about the former. He cares about the court of public opinion and ruining lives through that. And you and I both suffered various consequences from that. A lot of our peers have who've been targeted. How is Trump doing on that score? Because I think if you would have asked me last spring, I would have said the intimidation is spectacularly effective. And if you would ask me right now, I would say, boy, has it failed, because people are pushing back. But I really want your assessment. Has he succeeded in subverting the court of law with the court of public opinion? If not, what remains for him to do to make that possible?
So, I am not as optimistic as you. I mean, obviously there has been pushback, and you could look at various ways, and you have the public responding to things. Again, let's just use Minnesota as an example, but just think of the amount of caving, and you could at universities, large media companies, large businesses. It is rampant because of the fear that this administration will act the way that Putin would act, which is, if I do this, I am going to be subject to illegal retribution. And so I want to just stay off the radar screen. And so, I mean, just take my world, which is law firms. Every one of the sort of law firms that was subject to an executive order that challenged it, all of the judges who ruled on that said illegal. I mean, so much so that on appeal, for a moment, the administration wasn't even going to go forward with the appeal. These were all found to be illegal executive orders in violation of the First Amendment and other things, but it's remarkable. And yet, so many law firms caved, and publicly and even sort of privately, because the number of law firms that are willing to take on adversarial posture with respect to this administration are few and far between, certainly at the large law firm level. And so I think there's been an enormous amount of winning, and I think on the part of the Trump administration, where they can look at a case like Letitia James, and their view is it's a win-win. In other words, it works even if it's dismissed. I mean, the law firm is a perfect example. It's like they lost that, but it won in terms of the amount of deterrence that is going on. And you see it in so many other ways. I mean, CBS is a perfect example of that, but you can see it just in terms of mergers, right, and acquisitions, where people who are saying, well, I want to have this merger, and in order to get it and not be subject to illegal retribution by the antitrust division, I need to play ball. And so this is mob tactics. I mean, pure and simple. It's not. I remember when James Comey first analogized the president to a mobster, and I thought, oh, Jim, like, come on. I just thought it was too, I was just like, please, like, can we just have a more adult conversation? And he was totally right.
So, do you think some people were ahead of others? Go ahead.
Andrew, I've been surprised sometimes at what has drove the defection in this country. You saw the Epstein files obviously be a great driver of defection. I thought the Alex Preddy situation, where you had someone who is legally concealed carrying amongst Second Amendment, proponents, that could have been a defection moment. It kind of was, kind of wasn't. Are there other things that you're seeing in the court system that you think, if given the right publicity, could also be drivers of defection and support strong narratives against this administration?
So, that I don't. The short answer is I don't know. That's not. It's so outside of my expertise. I'm not a political consultant. I'm not a pollster. I can give you my gut. Is
yeah.
This is the kind of thing.
Don't know anything, anyways. Don't worry about it.
Nicole Wallace is always trying to get me to sort of opine on this stuff, and I'm like, but I'm going to opine the way any civilian would. But my general gut is that there's sort of a bell curve, and it's like different things will touch different people. I'm always surprised when people aren't sort of looking at facts and to have the same reaction, because I'm such a lawyer that I'm so used to, facts and law matter, and I think of the courtroom, and I think one of the reasons, to Miles's point, that you have Donald Trump trying to do stuff outside of the courts is he has learned that is not something that he can manipulate.
They're not his friends.
Right. I mean, that is one where, as a judge I was in front of a lot during the Mueller investigation, used to say this is a place where facts and laws still matter. Donald Trump learned when he tried to challenge, he or his acolytes tried to challenge the 2020 election, that the courts are not a place where you can just say, oh, there's fraud, and they're going to be like, okay, great, where's your proof? And when you don't have any, they rule against you.
Well,
instead, he has learned he can just go on TV last week and say it, and say, oh, don't worry, it's on the White House website, and everyone goes to the White House website and it's not there.
Well, when you were over there, of course, at the Mueller investigation, I'll never forget one of those days in the Oval, Trump having a conversation with us about his frustration with the judges and saying the words that I wrote down in my notebook at the time: why don't we just get rid of the judges? And I think if we're putting out a report card for how is the judiciary doing right now, at a minimum, we can say he has not achieved his goal. He has not gotten rid of the judges. The judges are fighting back in so many cases. And there's at least that at the moment to hang our hats on.
Absolutely. And well, I and lots of people are disappointed in so many ways. That's mild understatement with the Supreme Court. They have, and as you noted, in various ways pushed back. Now, it's some of that. It's like, are you kidding me? It's like it's hard to give them credit for like the birthright citizenship case, because it's like it should have been 9-0, and it's on
like
on the
6-3 or 5-4. What was it?
Well, on the constitutional issue, it was 5-4. And so like that's falls into insanity. If you, like we are, and JD Vance pointed this out. He's right after the decision, he goes, we're only one vote away.
One vote away. That's how tenuous our democracy is at the moment. Why it's critical to grow the defiance in this country. Andrew Weissmann, always a delight to see you, my friend. Thank you for everything you are doing. I could have led with that as your actual bio. Guy who was threatened, guy who's been intimidated, guy who refused to bow to that mobster as described by James Comey. So,
Andrew, before you get out of here, I got you and Miles a present, since you said you wanted a jacket. I've got you Trump Attack Me, Now I'm Famous jackets for both of you.
I don't want to wear it. I don't want to sell it. I like it.
Exactly.
Andrew Weissmann, thank you.
you.
And remind folks where they can follow you. The podcast is Main Justice with Mary McCord, and the new book is?
So the new book is Liar's Kingdom, and it is about how to have regulation, including criminal prosecution of politicians who lie to us.
Pick it up wherever fine books are sold. Thank you, my friend. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Take care.
Xander, we also have joining us today someone who is a friend of the program, friend of democracy, friend of new media, and I would like to think a good friend. I don't know if you would vouch for that or not. We're going to ask him. We're going to put him on the spot. Does he consider Miles Taylor a friend, or does he consider that to be a risk to his reputation? With us now is the incredible Terry Moran, award-winning journalist, now the host of Real Patriotism, which I love the title. We could talk for a long time about why Terry decided to put his work under that banner, but I think no one deserves to put their work under that banner like him. Great to have you with us, my friend. So are we friends or not? Let's start there.
Yes, I'm proud to call you friends. I'm genuinely, actually, not just because you're on the right side, because you do it the right way. And it's effective. You've been effective, but more than that, you're good guys. So,
well, when you feel as authentically animated by something, it's hard for folks to come out of the woodwork and say you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So sure. There's that. And I want to open, my friend, by asking you a similar question that we asked our friend Andrew Weissmann earlier. Big picture, zoom out, give us a sense. What does the resistance currently look like in this country? What are the downsides? What are the upsides? What's your report card? We're not quite at the midway point of the second Trump presidency, but how's the pushback going in American society?
Well, I think it's a moment of extraordinary promise and extraordinary danger for the democracy because of where we are. Right, this is the shock and awe tactics, the kind of blitzkrieg tactics, if you will, of Trump's first year in office, just took people's breath away, disheartened people, frightened people. People lost jobs. Obviously, all kinds of things happened, and yet good people, people who love this country, real patriots, I would call them, rallied. And they pushed back in the courts, as we've just heard. They pushed back on the streets. The people of Minneapolis is Selma for this generation. I don't think there's any question about that. It's a sign that ordinary people can stand up for their neighbors and for this country in a way that will make a difference. And yet, as you guys so constantly and accurately capture, this is a moment of extreme danger as well. Trump's speech the other night, comical, farcical though it might be, he has the powers of the presidency and the Supreme Court has unleashed him. Stephen Miller, as you wrote about this week, is out there with a very, very ominous plan, clearly, and one that, given the enormous powers that were mistakenly and foolishly left in the hands of the occupant of the office of the presidency, they can carry through this domestic terrorist operation. And you hear the echoes of Dzerzhinsky Square, right? The place in Moscow where they take dissidents into the basement and shoot them in the back of the head. In Miller saying, when the leftist complains that his rights are being violated, we must close our ears. And so it's a moment of danger, but also a moment of promise because people have stood up and Trump has screwed up, but that makes him even more dangerous, that he senses this rising. And I think I would not put anything past him.
Miles says that same leftist quote when I'm complaining internally. He's like, when the leftist complains, we got to close our ears.
All on deaf ears, Xander.
Look, I will say this about the midterms and about the Democratic Party. Trump obviously unites people of goodwill towards democracy. Democracy isn't the decisive issue for voters, but it is an important one. It is for me, but a lot of people, it's healthcare, it's childcare, it's just getting by. And those are all primary reasons to vote. But I think what you see in the Democratic Party is a kind of bearing of the hatchet, but I don't know how long that can last, right? Already with the Democratic Socialist candidates rising and others in the party, Van Jones and others already speaking out, no, we can't have this. Mm-hmm. At some point, the Democrats have to get back to a shared governing theory and a shared sense of values, because successful political movements, successful political parties, they make converts. Unsuccessful political parties hunt heretics. And there are too many Democrats hunting heretics.
This is a great point here. I mean, I made this point. I wonder what your reaction is at the end of the show. Yesterday, there was a question about what the blue wave's priorities should be. I said Trump's priorities when he ran were actually pretty good. Like, if outside the scapegoating, the corruption, the no more wars, the American worker priority, forget how his prescriptions, which is racist and terrible and dumb and all of the things. But I think he showed, even with an absolutely awful candidate and a POS person, you can win on those principles. And I think he tapped into what Americans are asking for oftentimes. I just want to get your reaction there.
I think you're absolutely right. To me, the most important political fact of our time, one of the most important political facts of my life, is that Donald Trump stole the working class from the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. From FDR to Obama, declining towards the end, but Obama still, Obama remains the most popular politician in America. And he got, he almost won Missouri. At one
Indiana, Miles home state.
Indiana, yeah, absolutely. And you could see, it's because he was well educated, obviously Harvard Law. He has that credential, but he was also kind of very ESPN-y, for a lot of people. He's
Stuart Scott of politics.
In some ways, yeah. And that was lost. And I'm not talking about the individual candidates. I'm just saying that the Democrats' language, priorities, and solutions. It's why somebody like Mamdani, I like to say I'm a member of the most despised political tribe in America. I am a proud member of the center left. But Mamdani's, to the left of me, but that can do all American pragmatic optimism. Let's get solutions. That's from FDR on. FDR had no particular ideology. He just wanted to fix things, right? And I think that the problem that the Democrats face is that they've lost the trust of people on the issues you just mentioned, Xander. Those issues that were Democratic issues and that Trump, stole. I mean, I remember when there was a debate in the Democratic Party about trade with Dick Gephardt and Mario Cuomo saying, wait, and the unions saying, no, that we know who this is going to benefit and who it's not going to benefit. And Trump has stolen that issue, among others. And so I think there are, underneath this urgent campaign that has united Democrats and many independents to save our democracy, there's the harder work of winning back people who don't trust the party anymore.
Well, let's talk about the people power aspect of this, because to me, ordinary folks were first to start resisting Donald Trump. I mean, as our friend Andrew Weissman reminded us, as the educational institutions and the law firms caved,
and the media companies.
And the media companies, people went into the streets. People went to No Kings rallies. People showed up to protest in Minneapolis. People with everything to lose. Ordinary Americans without, multi-million-dollar lawyers in their general counsel's office to defend them. They were the ones that showed the bravery, which is also not a novelty in history. I mean, you look back, you often see that as the case. You see the elites cave and they run and they cower in the dark, and ordinary folks take on the risk. But then the tide starts turning. And I'm glad you mentioned media companies, because I don't want to say the tide has turned completely, but some of the big media companies, some that you're very well familiar with, whether you can comment on them or not, BBC is fighting back in court against Trump's lawsuit. And we had a judge just rule that Discovery now needs to expand to Trump's businesses. This is going to backfire on him, right? BBC is choosing to fight this in court. It's going to backfire on Trump. I think they're going to have to decide whether they want to keep this case or not, because very sensitive records are going to be exposed by this. BBC could have caved like others and written Donald Trump a check, and they didn't. ABC News, I've got plenty of reserved criticism for a lot of things that ABC News did or didn't do last year, but ABC News is now appealing to its viewers to support it in its fight against the Trump administration and threats to basically pull the plug on the network. I was very interested to see that. And that's in part because they are getting pressure from their viewers. Fight and do something. Don't settle. Don't write the check. Don't capitulate. Same thing with the New York Times. The New York Times is fighting back in court against these absurd subpoenas. We are seeing these elite mainstream legacy news outlets starting to really find a spinal cord. Some found it sooner than others. Handicap that for me. How are we doing there? Are they playing catch up? Is the people power helping them get there? Where is mainstream media still falling short? And has independent media filled the gap?
Well, that's a great question. It's a question I live every day, obviously, having gone from one to the other on an accelerated timetable, I should say. So, but what I think is no question, ordinary people are leading the way to protect the democracy as we have understood it for generations, to stop the radical transformation of it into something unrecognizable as the American democracy. And those are ordinary people, as you say, doing that. And that is a signal and a comfort in some ways to these mass media organizations. But I would also say, if Donald Trump had not made war on Iran, would ABC be doing that? If Donald Trump had not gone down in the polls? Now, every president, we get used to them. We get sick of them, in fact. They get stale, especially in their second terms. And it makes it easier for media to go after them. So I think those combinations, but they also, you're right, should be praised for standing up Trump wants essentially to strip ABC's affiliates and the whole network of their licenses because he doesn't like what they're saying. I mean, that can't be real in this country, but it could be under this administration and the Supreme Court. And so appealing to their viewers, that sense of solidarity, that's what we're talking about here. You know, there is a growing sense, and it's hard given, look how we're communicating. It's excellent. I love it. It's my career now.
It is
But to
nice.
get, it
I
is
enjoy
nice.
it. It's
It
nice.
is nice.
It's a nice career.
It is nice because the difference is that as a broadcaster, right? What do? You're broadcasting. You're
Yeah.
casting. You're throwing the news at people. And independent media with each other and with our audiences is much more collective and interactive, obviously. And that I think helps encourage the bigger companies. But look, I'll tell you, those big companies cannot be replaced at this point, and I don't see anytime soon. CNN spends more than $1 billion every year on news gathering around the world. There's no the bulwark that nobody can do that independently. And when the balloon goes up, right, there's a war that starts somewhere. I mean, the apparatus of ABC News or any of them, when they fly into action at a major disaster, an earthquake or a war that begins, it's astonishing. The airlift that happens, the personnel, the experience in those situations. I don't see independent news. I see a lot of great people. Malcolm Nance in Ukraine for years has been doing incredible work independently. But for the most part, we are symbiotic at the best and at our best with the mainstream media. And it's the audiences that have to make that happen by participating in independent media and also, you know, with the corporate media, holding them to account and supporting them when they're going in the right direction.
The holding them to account is a new muscle we're building too. We talked about ABC,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The active decision to mass rescind support is something that I don't think Americans were thinking about. Oftentimes, we might, boycott some organizations casually or choose, I don't know, farm raised chicken over caged chicken or whatnot. But the ability to collectively move to let organizations and institutions know, hey, we're not having it if you side with these guys, is a new muscle we're building. Terry, I want to ask you a tricky question, and like this is one I'm challenged by. We're getting set to ask our members here to organize their communities. That's where we're heading. And sometimes when I talk to my less engaged friends and talk about what Trump's trying to do, it sounds hyperbolic, partially because the defiance in this country has stopped him from doing what he wants to do. He's not, whether it's and when I say that, I say the broad defiance, the lower courts, Congress at times when they've done something, and all of us have stopped him from doing things. We'd be shipping people without trials to CCOT in mass. We'd have, armed forces on all of our streets in the major cities, controlled by the president, if not for the efforts of the defiance. But they don't see that if they're not plugged in. A lot of them still see a normative flow of political support from one party to the next. How do we make that case?
Well,
it's
first,
not normative times.
As you know, he may make it for us because we aren't out of the woods yet on any of those things, on troops on the streets, on the election being carried out in a regular way. And yet, that sense of solidarity that you're talking about. I mean, I'm gonna go out for dinner in a little while with a friend of mine here who's a Trump voter, and has doubts about the 2020 election, and we get along great. And I actually value that friendship quite a bit, and that I think is one way. I think that sense of hunting heretics in one's own party is not a great way to build a winning coalition, a winning strategy. And neither is entirely banishing every single person who found their way to voting for Trump, banishing them from decent society, banning them from their family members or acquaintances. Now, I know this is a very controversial thing to say, but there is only one way out of this mess for people who believe in the democracy as we have understood it for generations. And that is, we are going to have to persuade people. We're going to have to engage in old-fashioned conversation. You can't beat people.
We tried it the other way,
submission.
Terry. We tried to just go get as many of our people and we'll have more of their. It turns out it's pretty split down the middle, 3 elections in a row. And so we need to invest in
purity test
persuasion.
didn't work. The purity
Yeah.
tests weren't effective. We thought
Yeah.
maybe ideological purity tests would be persuasive. It turns out people don't like them.
Can't scold people into the coalition. I tried.
You can't. You got to meet them where they are. You got to. I mean, conversation is the greatest capacity people have ever developed. Right? It's why we're sort of we're running the planet and bears aren't, or whatever. But what I mean by that is that's our
Biologist
super,
Terry Moran.
That's why bears aren't running the planet.
well, unless you meet one in the woods, which I did once, not a good thing. By the way, just aside, the Revenant, not a movie I liked. I was actually rooting for the bear against Leo DiCaprio on that one. But bears aside, there's only our ability to persuade each other is our strong suit, and Democrats have to kind of get those muscles going again. There was a time I think for a few years there, whereas, well, of course you must believe these things, and of course you must think these things, of course you must say these things in these manners, and if you aren't, then you're less than or a bigot, and you got to meet people where they are. I have found, and I'm one of the few political reporters, I think, who believes it. I think voters are very smart. I think they're really intelligent about one thing, and that's their own interests.
Yes.
And how the facts of their own lives have led them to hold the beliefs they hold. Even if I found those beliefs incorrect or abhorrent, they got there, for the most part. Most ordinary people got there based on working it out from the facts of their lives. They can be persuaded often in the other direction. You have to believe that, or you're going to give up on the system. So the answer, how do we get back to normal? We got to go out and see each other. One great way in the democracy area, go become a poll worker, right? Because you will meet people from the other side. The country, our elections run on the patriotism and dedication of more than 1 million volunteer poll workers across the country, and you can meet people. I remember I did a story in rural Colorado in 2024 about the local county clerk who was a Democrat, had to wear a bulletproof vest to work every day and change his route on the advice of the sheriff, because he couldn't protect him. And yet he hired a bunch of people who were 2020 election was stolen. They'd come up to him and yell at him. He said, "Come work with me. You look, you see, you help me keep the election safe." And it worked. Proximity to each other, even though it's difficult to stomach sometimes, I think is the way to go, is the way to do it.
And we're talking about, in this case, the more challenging version of these conversations. A member reminded me today on Substack, Thomas Day, that to quote him, the underemphasized unengaged are the biggest voting bloc in the nation. So you're not always confronted with opposition. You're confronted with complacency or unawareness or a lack of information. And so there's so many folks out there waiting to hear from us, and we just need to be those engines.
Absolutely.
Well, Terry, before we let you go, I do just want to say I very much want to encourage people to subscribe to and to follow Real Patriotism. You're gonna laugh at this, but I mean it very sincerely. You've always reminded me, at least as much as history can help us see these people in 3 dimensions, of the pamphleteers from the Revolution. You remind me of some of the early writers in American history. You probably know the story of Benjamin Franklin Beach, Ben Franklin's grandson, right? He was a journalist who was in mainstream media, and he had this sort of dissenting publication in Philadelphia called the Aurora, and he was charged during the Adams administration under the Sedition Act because he had the gall to criticize Adams acting like a monarch and defying the U.S. Constitution. And he sort of stepped beyond his role as journalist and re-embraced that role as citizen to call out those violations of the Constitution, to say this isn't calling the balls and strikes. The guy isn't playing by the rules anymore. And for that, he was prosecuted, eventually got out of jail, unfortunately died when I think one of the fevers swept the country. That is not what I expect to happen.
He's predicting that for you.
You do
Duck
Oh,
the
no.
lettuce. Avoid the lettuce.
Avoid the
way-
lettuce.
in the way that you invoke history, in the way that you help us frame the moment in this country, you carry on a noble tradition from some of those early writers and thinkers and patriots. So again,
Wow.
fitting that your publication is called Real Patriotism. I hope
Thank you.
folks follow you, and I just want to say a big thank you for everything you continue to do.
And thank you guys for everything that you're doing. Really, this is the critical moment, and it should have people should have no problem rising to it, because first, we're needed, and second, what better thing could you do with your life than to put your shoulder to the wheel and help save our democracy? I think I count myself lucky.
Amen, my friend. Couldn't have put it better. The great Terry Moran, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Terry.
See you.
I was so glad, Xander, that he said those words at the end there, that it's an honor to be doing this. I mean, this is a conversation you and I have had a few times on this show with folks, and that you and I have had in private. And everyone's at different, states, in the stages of grief about the state of our democracy. But I've reached the stage, and a while ago reached the stage of feeling like this is truly a privilege to be in this fight. Partly because I have no interest in spending 4 years navel gazing, crying, saying this is bad, woe is me, sad. that
Nothing's wrong
Donald
with
Trump
crying.
is- yeah,
As
yeah.
someone who cries on the program once a week.
Okay to cry. If you cried the whole program every day, I would say you got a problem. And
Yeah, that's true,
maybe,
that's true.
maybe someone else should talk
Selective
about it
crying.
off the program. But I think both you and I have reached the stage where we see this as a true privilege to get to wake up every day and fight to preserve our country and its institutions and the rule of law. And in some cases, maybe preserving them is no longer an option. Maybe it is going to be resuscitating them down the road. Maybe it's rebuilding. Either way, it's a privilege to get to do that work. And all of us should be doing that work. I mean, we talked about the revolutionary generation just now with Terry. That wasn't just a couple dozen elites that carried out that work. Ordinary Americans felt so animated by the spirit of liberty. You read it in the op-eds of the time. You read it in the writings of the contemporaries. Americans felt this zeal. That's the word you see so much. It's the words you see from de Tocqueville and others years later, the zeal in the United States for carrying
Yes.
out the work of democracy and preserving its institutions. I'm seeing those inklings now. I'm seeing that spark among more people. It's not just an oddity when you or I say it's a privilege to be in this fight. I didn't coordinate that with Terry. Terry comes on this program and sits and says he's now at a place where he feels like it's an honor to do what he's doing, to carry on this tradition of protecting democracy against threats, foreign and domestic. And Xander, that is our theme today, is helping people embrace the defiance and spread the defiance, to realize that task is an honorable one and it's a privilege to get to carry that out. So with that, my friend, let me toss it back over to you, because we thought a lot about responding to the demands of the Defy Ants, our members, to give them some additional ways, some of them simple, some of them new, to help expand the defiance, not just this organization, but this organization representing ways to fight back against the corruption.
Yeah, you nailed it. The Defiance have been asking us for tools to help grow the Defiance for a while now. And this week, we're finally rolling out a few. As we mentioned at the top, this country needs you to be organizers. There's no other heroes coming. We need each other to step up in this moment. And we are going to do our best to make sure you have the information you need and the actions you need, and now the tools you need to be those engines for growth. But really, sometimes, political movements look like, because the way we tell history, we talk about a guy at the top, whether it's, Lenin to Obama to everyone in between, we talk about a guy at the top, but political movements are really, at the end of the day, a bunch of people organizing 5 to 10 to 15 people around them, informing them and bringing them into this work. So we're rolling out a number of the features, and the timing for this couldn't be better because the midterms are coming, which means it's kind of the one season where the regular people that aren't like us, that aren't, it's plugging in for an hour a day, are starting to pick their head up and go, what's going on here? Whose side should I be on? What should I do? And so it's a great opportunity. So I'm just going to roll through a number of features that we're rolling out today. And we're starting with number one. I think you guys are going to like this.
Can I interrupt you before we get to that feature?
Yeah.
Just to say one thing to folks. We're going to prompt you to help us grow defiance.org.
Yes.
Defiance.org is one of many efforts out there, but we think this is one of the best ways. This is the reason why we're devoting our lives to this right now. We think this is one of the best ways for you to fight back against Donald Trump's abuses of power. And if our producer has it, this is what I want you to be thinking about. And Mercedes, if we could just go to defiance.org, the main website, and if folks are on their phones, go ahead and scroll down when you get to that website, because we have just a little bit of a paragraph that just gives you a sample of some of the things you all have done. Just up there, you just passed it, Mercedes. Some of the things that you all have done as a community at defiance.org. Take a look right there, that we have funded or fomented or fueled efforts to do a vast array of things, protecting the whistleblowers and fighting this administration in the courts. The things Xander is are those different items he's going to highlight today are ways for us to take that list. Let's quadruple that list. Let's multiply that list by 10. If we grow this movement, we can do so much more of that. The things that Xander was alluding to earlier about how much uglier it would look if we hadn't fought back as an organization, as a country, is right. And Terry's also right that those things could happen at any moment. The backsliding could happen. Trump could go back to considering the Insurrection Act. That's why we've got to grow this effort, to grow that list right there. That's what this is all about. It's not for us to, go hire 100 consultants inside the organization. It's for us to go support the people on the front lines doing this work when it matters most, where it matters most. So I just wanted to give that caveat. It really is vital that you all grow this institution into a thing that can have even greater success in fighting corruption. Sorry, Xander, back to you. Off my soapbox.
Good soapbox today. You're giving rousing speeches today.
Love soapbox.
You're in history. This is a good
roll. Soap gets you inspired, probably because it's so small. You don't know how long you're going to be able to teeter on the edge of that box, so you got to get the words out.
It's a one-legged Karate Kid crane stance that you've got to take on a soapbox. All right, let's go. Feature number one. My favorite, also perhaps the cutest feature of all the features that we got.
Cutest.
My trackpad just disappeared. Okay, I'm back. The Defiant achievements. Mercedes, if we could bring up defiance.org/achievements.
It's on the screen.
Oh, it's there. Scroll down a little bit to those ranks. So there's only one way digital communities experience exponential growth, and that's when members take it upon themselves to grow the community. So from now on, we're going to focus time, energy, attention, and appreciation on referring others to join the Defiance. When you bring people into the Defiance, we're going to celebrate it. We're using Substack's native referral feature to track how many people you bring into the Defiance, so we can celebrate you as you achieve these new ranks. As you see there with our Defiance, you're a scout if you bring just one member to the Defiance. You're a trailblazer if you bring in 5, or a forager, I'm sorry. Trailblazer if you bring in 10. And then eventually, Mercedes, if you scroll down a little bit more, 25 for major. We'd love for you to become a swarm leader. We'd love for you to become a colony founder.
Colony founder. I love it.
I had so much fun making this. I actually spent way too much time on this because I didn't make it ant themed at first and then had to pull myself back. But so as you hit these milestones, we get alerts on the back end. We get alerts, and then we're going to shout you out on Defiance Daily and in our newsletter. only if you want to be shouted out, of course. If you want to be private, we will honor that. But we're going to shout you out, show appreciation, and we hope that this becomes a fun, gamified way to build up this community. I know, I got part of this inspiration from Peloton. I don't know if you've ever done a Peloton, but the instructor will shout you out as you hit milestones, and it's so freaking motivating. And in here in this political game, the most important milestones is people we can bring aboard here. So you can find your referral link. Mercedes, if you go to defiance.news/leaderboard, if you go to that domain, and some of you maybe have never been here, you'll see the folks with the top referrals, but also within that link, you will see your referral code. And so feel free not only to text that to friends.
Jim Acosta, number 6.
Jim Acosta doing
6 or
work.
5, I can't quite see. Jim Acosta kicking ass. Okay, who's going to beat Jim Acosta? Someone get out there and recruit more people into the Defiance than Jim Acosta. Let's just drop our friend Jim in the rankings. Let's crush Jim. Kimmy Wynn, kicking butt. Our friend Olivia Troy, some great folks out there. And I also have to add to what Xander said. This isn't just going to be, hey, we're going to give you a boost, which I'll admit that works with Peloton. If you've ever done one of their live things and you think
I
you're
get fired
there
up.
at a house in Indiana on a Peloton, and then someone says your name from a New York studio, you're like, I guess I have to pedal faster. We also want to make sure that we, over time, find ways to empower you to spread the Defiance through these links by doing things like unlocking campaign packs where you hit certain thresholds, and we'll send you swag, we'll send you yard signs, we'll send you things to help grow the Defiance. But a simple way for us to start organizing in groups. And one of the things that you said to me, Xander, is not just treating this as something individuals do, but folks who are already friends because of the Defiance community, finding ways to work in groups, to drop their referral links into the chat for their Indivisible chapter,
Yes.
or other things like their family chain or their group distro or their neighborhood chat. Find ways to grow this movement. You built this. You achieved those successes on defiance.org. Come bring other people into that effort. And this is one easy way to just do this, a copy-paste way to grow our movement and increase the impact to support the groups that we're all out there supporting.
I'm going to offer something that I hope you make me regret, because you utilize it so often. If you do bring a virtual group together, a sizable virtual group together, I'm happy to join. I'm happy to jump in for 5 minutes and talk to the community. We want to be there. We want to help you in your organizing as much as possible. And so if you're organizing a group Zoom for 10, 15, 20 people, I can jump in there for 5 minutes. My email is, unsurprisingly, xander@defiance.org. Feel free to let me know what you got going on. I'm happy to jump in. We want to be there to support you as much as possible. Quick note before, that was big news. Quick note before we move on. The shout outs will be rolling out sometime in the next week or so. We're figuring out the back end of this, the Substacks referral. We're bending the Substacks referral feature to suit this milestones program. And I think we're going to get it figured out sometime in the next 3-4 days here. But do not hesitate to start sending out those referrals now. We still see all the alerts coming in. We're still going to give you love. So feel free to use and abuse those referral links. All right, Miles, you ready for number 2?
Number 2, hit me, brother.
Number 2, mobilize watch parties. You might be familiar with these if you're part of an Indivisible group. They use these often. It's one thing to share our actions with our friends, tell them about the episode we just saw. It's another thing to watch the weekly mission with them. So we're using Mobilize. Starting this week, members can host their own weekly mission brief watch parties. If you've never used Mobilize before, it's a platform that allows an org like Defiance to create an event, and then you all can sign up to host an event. Mercedes, that link is in, if you see it there you go. So you get sent to this link, you scroll down to the bottom, you hit, you want to host a party. It fills your calendar event with everything you need and gives you tools to invite your community. And, bring your friends over. And one of the easiest ways to recruit them is by teaming some politics with some pizza. Make it casual, make it fun. I think a lot of people avoid politics in this country because they see fights on CNN or Fox News and think it's a brutal place to get involved. Show them that real deal political engagement, civic engagement, is about having fun with some friends, showing up where you need to show up, and taking action when you need to take action. But it's like it is, to Terry's point that earlier, it's community building. It's fun. It's a good time. So we're providing you a tool to host watch parties. We'd love for all of you to host watch parties. It could be as big as one friend over, two friends over, but start making this a recurring part of your week. We're giving you the tools to make it happen. We're going to keep playing with Mobilize and figuring out other ways to use it for, say, watch parties for the Unfit 2 documentary when it comes out, and other big flagship events that are coming down the pipe. Miles, anything before we move on?
Yeah, part of this inspired by a defiant who I ran into in an airport in California. Your name escapes me. I'm not even sure I got your name, but you talked about the watch parties you host every single Wednesday of like-minded friends getting together to watch Defiance Daily on our weekly mission briefs to try to organize people to take action. And we've since heard from a lot of Defiants who are hosting these watch parties as a way to bring other people into the movement and to take those actions. And again, that's not just to have people watching us. It's because on Wednesdays, we typically feature an organization or multiple organizations out there fighting Trump's corruption. We want them to have as big of an audience as possible, motivated people to go support their work. We're talking about the organizations that are winning in court. These things are not happening by themselves, folks. They need support. They need people like you and your extended networks to come be a part of it. So yeah, consider hosting a watch party. Consider just having people over for pizza on a Wednesday and saying, oh, by the way, you guys want to watch this, this program with me? We're going to meet some great organizations and leaders this week. So like Xander said, we're going to get those links out to you. Mobilize, just a very easy way for you to organize these and to make it all happen. What do we got next, Xander? I think that we got a quick list here of other things that we're going to do.
Yeah, we can roll through these. You may be thinking to yourself, okay, you want me to host watch parties? You want me to share my referral link with friends and family? You want me to take actions that you give me each week? When am I going to do this? Here, we are hosting the Action After Hour, which you are currently at. We didn't mean for this part to be the after hour, but we're here. We are going to stay on after our Wednesday mission to do our actions together. Miles and I will take Q&A while we're doing actions, so we're not just sitting silently staring at each other. So we'll also have an extended Q&A session, but we'll take our actions together. We'll send referral links. Miles and I will figure out which family member we haven't bugged yet or surprisingly has not joined the Defiance.
That's right.
A cousin, an uncle, an aunt. We'll figure out each week. It'll be exciting. You'll do the same. Then we're going to take our actions together, and we're going to be here to answer any of your questions.
You guys, we think this is important to do because
yes,
look, we all watch a lot of programs, whether it's, you're watching your favorite MS Now host or you're listening to your favorite podcaster talk about the things that we all need to do to protect our country. And then I think there's this assumption that when you're done with the podcast, you're going to pull out your notebook, pull over your car and, open up your laptop and say, let's go. Let's do the things that, I don't know, Hassan Piker or Nicole Wallace said to do. Some people are doing those things. We think a very simple way to solve this problem is literally to create space for it while we're on the podcast together, while we're listening and say, hey, we're doing it too. I mean, honestly, honest question. How many of these hosts that you follow or new media publications are sitting there with you and saying, let's go take action together. Let's check our voter registration together. Let's go sign up for a, poll worker training together. Let's just go do it. So you can see us, we'll screencast our phones or our desktops to just show you that we're doing the same thing and to carry it out together. Hopefully that makes it easier just to do some of these things. And look, if that's boring to you, if you just want to come in for the first hour of the program, see the guests, hear about the actions we're taking and do it on your own time, it's great. Do it on your own time or hit pause or go back to it. But we want to create space and opportunity to take real actions together because it's different in the digital age. We were talking about the founding pamphleteers. Well, they literally would have gotten together at a community church or a gathering spot to do these things, to write the op-eds, to plan the protest, to design the poster. That happens less now. So we're going to create a space for it right here, Wednesdays on this program. When you tune into the weekly mission brief, we're going to save a little time at the back end to do the actions we lay out as a community.
Some would say this is the digital room where it happens. To quote my favorite play, Hamilton. It's so corny. It sounded cooler in my head. It happens. That's all right.
Hours would be corny, unscripted. Our producer's like, no. What do we got next, Xander?
Number 4. If you're wondering, how am I going to get my friends engaged that don't watch 1 hour live streams? Like, I don't know, 95% of the population. We've started producing a lot more short form content on our social media. So if you're not following us on social media, please do. Miles, where are we at on social media?
Everywhere at defiance.org. Most of the places we spell out dot. There it is, defiance.org. Go follow us if you're not already. Really, if you talk about simple things you can do to spread the defiance in this country, we say, like, share, subscribe, follow these platforms, repost the content, repost the stories of people who are fighting back against Trump's corruption. And as Xander notes, we want to make that easier for people. We're going to share some of these stories, like when we talk about in our programs during the week, who is joining the Defiance, and we feature people, often ordinary folks around the country. We want to amplify those stories. We don't want someone to have to listen to 45 minutes of a podcast before they get to that story. We're going to be clipping more. We're going to be sharing more of that out there for you. So be sure to check out those examples online.
Great for your friends that have 60-second attention spans instead of 60-minute attention spans, which we have a lot of these days. What were you going to say, Miles?
No, I was going to say the next one you have on the list here is something I probably get an ask for every day. And finally, friends, we are responding.
It's not always easy to strike up conversations in public about democracy. So we're starting to create a lot more provocative swag. So folks come up to you and ask, what is that all about? And you can go, it's about defeating fascism. Here's how you get involved. Here's my referral code. I'm ranking up. So we've got a bunch of stuff we're rolling out this week. Yard signs, a lot of folks asked for. Miles, you were the
architect.
The architect. I was trying to figure out what
simple folks. I know you may think, if you're just wandering in here, why are these guys touting yard signs? Well, it's because it just so happens that for centuries in American politics, the yard sign has been the conversation starter. The yard sign has spread the word. The yard sign has been the symbol politically of defiance and one's position. So yes, we have responded to the asks of defiance.org members of the Defiance to get some damn yard signs out there. But here's the thing. We want to make sure that members of the Defiance are able to get these at cost. There's no secret here. By the way, if you're paying full freight on any of these, the proceeds are going towards the Defiance. They're going towards supporting the efforts that we launched to protect our democracy. But if you want to get this at cost, we want you to just to be able to get these as easily as possible. So I think, Xander, anyone out there who's listening, so if you're not a defiance.org member, you're sneaking in under the wire here, but you can use the code Grow the Defiance, all caps, to get $12 off these yard signs, which basically gets them at the production cost that this online white label company charges to produce them on demand for individuals. Write that down. All caps. Grow the Defiance. Go buy one of these. It'll knock $12 off your order. You can put other things in your cart too. You want to buy a shirt, it's going to knock $12 off your order as long as there's a yard sign there in your cart. All caps, Grow the Defiance. I think we've got 3 different yard signs. One that says, I defy Trump, defiance.org. One that just says, defiance.org, defy Trump together. And another that says, want to help me save democracy? Defiance.org. That's a good conversation starter. So go grab one of those.
If you want Miles to host a QVC show, smash that heart button. He's crushing it. This is just beautiful. We also have a couple of fun things. Chris Palomino, a good friend, incredible illustrator, made a incredible illustration for orangemanbad.org, one of the most provocative, I think, car magnets that you can have out there. We're hoping lots of people go, what the hell is that? That can be found at the bottom here, Orange Man Bad car magnet. Unbelievable. I don't know if we can get a close up on that design, but it's a hilarious design.
Great design, Chris Palomino. Orange Man Bad. Very simple. There it is. Those are the emojis. orangemanbad.org, which is a redirect, by the way, to defiance.org.
Just comes right back to us.
We also have the standard defiance.org car magnet on there. I'm pretty sure you can get $5 off of that to get that close to at cost too, if that is in there. It's under one of those headers. There it is. Save Our Country car magnet. Enter the code Ride the Defiance.
Yep.
If you buy that one, Save Our Country car magnet, Ride the Defiance, all caps, will get you $5 off of that. I mean, one of the conversations we had as a team was our swag store helps fund one or half of a grantee every single month. All the revenue that comes into that swag store to support this organization supports half to one grantee every month. That's an organization that will announce we're giving $10,000 or $20,000 to go fight to protect this country. And so those swag sales actually mean something. But for this, we decided we should knock down the cost of many of these things so folks can just get them at the cost of production to help us grow the Defiance. So remember, for those yard signs, Grow the Defiance, all caps, is the discount code you will use to get $12 off. For that car magnet, Ride the Defiance, in all caps. Go ahead and use that. We want to make sure that you can help do this as easily as possible.
All right. Mercedes is saying we got to move along now.
We got to close this out.
Reminder, all this stuff, gang, is so you can be the best organizer you can be. So, I know I'm going to be looking like a NASCAR driver supported by Defiance.org when I'm walking around public the next 3-4 months here leading up to the midterms. All right, let's roll through this. Number 6, we don't need to share it here. You can go to Defiance.org/actions and you'll see everything you need to do there. But your badge, always, we started making the badge, 2 months ago. It's an easy thing to share. It's provocative. We're hoping your friends ask what it means. How are you kicking so much ass every week? Because every week we are saying we're kicking ass because we are. We are winning this fight in every different direction. Everywhere Trump tries to pop up his authoritarian little orange head, we are beating him down. So keep posting. That was a weird metaphor. Keep posting that badge. The weird line. And lastly, I think that's it. We're moving into the after hour, the action after hour.
I think we had the action after hour in a sense, Xander. Maybe that was the action after hour just now. But also, folks, we're going to have hopefully next week an announcement to make about some new folks who you might see around the Defiance.org community. One of the ways that we are working to grow the Defiance is, despite my deep reluctance, to modestly expand the size of this team. And so we've got some folks coming to join our effort part-time to help us grow the Defiance, to grow Defiance.org, and to help us fight back. Hopefully it also means you find us becoming even more responsive, moving even more quickly to take the actions that we have rolled out. We like to think we move very fast, announcing a new action every single week, but the threat is serious. And so we're going to introduce a couple of new faces into the mix, and we're excited to introduce them to you. So hopefully we can bring those team members on one of the programs next week. So stay tuned on that front.
Wonderful, wonderful. Just quick review before we send you off, and I'm going to send out my first text over there. Mercedes, if you can bring up Defiance.org/actions, and you all can bring up Defiance.org/actions, you'll see the actions this week, which is everything we just went through. Send out your referral code. Cheat code, like Miles said, send it to some groups that you know. See if you can swoop up 2, 3, 4, 5 people at once. The links are all right there for you. Host a watch party for this next upcoming Wednesday. See if we can host a watch party. Miles, who are you going to text with your referral code?
Look, let's model it right now. Who am I going to text with my referral code? I'm going to text my cousin. Well, I won't say his name. He's a cousin that lives in Chicago, and he's about to get a text message with the referral code. You know who you are. And
you know who you are, Chicago
right
cousin.
Now while we're sitting here. Who are you going to text, Xander?
I'm going to text. I have a feed called Hometown. It's just my high school basketball playing friends.
Yes.
From high school. All of them I would consider deeply underengaged based on the thread and what they're pasting in there. So it's time to change that. They know what I'm up to, but I've never really put the full court press on them to get involved. I'm doing it now. I'm sending it over to those boys and saying, look, you got to throw down with me. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about. That's not the best organizing principles, by the way. That's just what I'm doing with these guys. That's just when you know people really well. Trust me. Join. I know what I'm doing.
What's the next one we should take on?
All right. Host a watch party. Now, Miles, you and I can't host a watch party. So we got to nominate.
This is the watch party for us.
This is our watch party. But I think, you know, who's down the road? I moved to Oregon to be down the road from my mom, who lives in a community, happens to live in a community of 8 progressive folks that, you know, should be gathering every Wednesday here with us, knowing what they can do and taking actions alongside us. So I'm going to pull the child card and ask my mom to host the watch party over at the community down the road from us. That's my move. But you know, for most of you, it is actually clicking through those links, going to Mobilize, and hosting a watch party.
I'm going to suggest that my dad, who listens to this program a lot, he might be listening with some of my siblings right now in the Midwest. I'm going to suggest, I think they're basically holding a watch party right now. If they're hanging around, reading books, listening,
So they just need to
board
make a
games.
bigger watch party. They just
Bigger
need a
watch
larger
party.
one.
Get out there, guys, from the vacation rental and go get more people to come in and listen to Defiance Daily. But that's who I'm going to exhort. What's
Amazing.
the next action we're going to take together while we're here, Xander?
Well, look, gang, if these are meant to be. Well, Miles and I talked about this. Actually, Miles really talked to me about this.
I'm
I
gonna
said
go
we should
back.
host.
Yeah.
We should host 30 minutes after the call to do actions. Miles goes, if it takes 30 minutes to do the actions, we're failing people. We need to make this simple. We need to make it quick. We
It should
need to
be
make
5
this
minutes.
easy to do. It should be 5 minutes. So, gang, if you've sent your referral link to someone, you're doing great. If you started filling out the form to host a watch party, thank you. And lastly, pick up some swag. Miles, which new piece of swag are you grabbing?
I'm going to get. I'm actually doing this. I mean, I can go to the back end and
I'm buying it.
Have the company. Yeah, I can have them ship me it. No, I'm obviously gonna buy it. I'm going to get the "Want to Join Me in Saving
too.
Our Country" yard sign.
Nice.
Look, there's three different yard signs there for a reason. There's the person who wants to say so loudly, "I defy Trump," and wants to let neighbors know, we know who you are. You're the person that puts like 10 political yard signs on your yard. There's the person who wants to rep the organization, but not have it be too in your face, that right? Just wants to have defiance.org, defy Trump together. Then there's the person who wants to extend an invitation. They want to make someone curious, and Trump's name's not on there. That's what I like about that yard sign. Want to join me in saving our country. So I'm buying that one right now, Xander. I'm not using the discount code. I'm going to donate to our organization. My wife's like rolling her eyes. She's like, we have given so much to this organization. Here we go, honey. We're giving more. Apparently, I already have 3 in my cart. Maybe I should adjust that. I probably should put 3 in our yard.
That's aggressive.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
I got the same yard sign as you, Miles. I also went with the Orange Man Bad car magnet, which I'm going to put right next to my Defiance.org car magnet, and then the Kick 'em in the Ballots tote bag.
Car magnet in there. And just for folks who are sitting there with us doing this, it's if you are using the discount code, it's $12 off the yard sign with "Grow the Defiance," all caps. It's $5 off that car magnet, the Save Our Country car magnet, if you put "Ride the Defiance" in all caps. This is not QVC. This is pro-democracy.
All right, gang. Well, usually we'd be doing some Q&A, but we took forever to get through the show. We're already 30 minutes into overtime. We'll do some tomorrow where we have another show. Don't worry. You don't have to wait long for Q&A. Defiance Daily tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Miles, anything to close us out here, buddy?
Thank you to our friends, Andrew Weissman. Do check out his book, Liar's Kingdom. It is fantastic. And a big thank you to our friend Terry Moran from Real Patriotism. Terry's program, his writings really do, like few people, capture the moment, the historical gravity of what we are taking on together. So a big thank you to both of them. And we will have our friend whose flight got delayed, Mr. Ami Fields Meyer, who is busy on his own book tour promoting the book On Courage, which is basically a manual on how to be a dissident. We had him on the program. We will have him back again very soon. In the meantime, folks, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Stay loud, stay brave, stay together, and thank you for everything you are doing to spread the defiance in this country. We'll see you soon.